The morning session between the Syrian Arab Republic's delegation and the delegation of the so-called opposition coalition discusses the subject of combating terrorism. Dozens of terrorists are killed and their hideouts and weapons destroyed in Aleppo, Idlib, Dar'a and Deir Zor. Al-Halaqi checks the maintenance and reform operations as well as the rehabilitation of the affected infrastructure in Barza neighborhood in Damascus. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Hirado Krikorian from the News Center in Damascus. Syria's official delegation to Geneva II conference has submitted a draft statement during Thursday's morning session condemning terrorism in accordance with Geneva II I communique, but the coalition delegation's so-called opposition rejected it. The morning session started in Geneva today between the Syrian Arab Republic's delegation and the delegation of the so-called opposition coalition in the presence of the UN envoy to Syria, Lakhdar al-Brahimi. The session started with a minute of silence observed in honor of the souls of Syria's martyrs before starting the subject of combating terrorism. The coalition delegation, so-called opposition, quickly rejected the paper of principles submitted by the delegation of the Syrian Arab Republic in Geneva after the expelled ambassador, Robert Ford, gave them his instructions regarding the total respect of independence and sovereignty. Deputy Foreign Minister Dr. Faisal al-Miqdad pointed out that American Ambassador Robert Ford and others are directing the so-called opposition coalition in one way to give the impression as if the Syrian delegation has come to Geneva to hand over the authority, which is not only a red line but a taboo, because the Syrian delegation cannot accept or contribute to Syria's destruction. Iranian Assistant Foreign Minister for Arab and African Affairs Hossein Amir Abdullahian denied in a statement to the Iranian news agency news circulated by some media outlets on secret talks held between representatives of Iran, the Syrian government and the so-called opposition. The statement came following some media outlets which have recently claimed that secret talks are being held between representatives of the Iranian government, the Syrian government and the so-called opposition in Switzerland. During a meeting with Syria's ambassador in Moscow, Riyad Haddad, along with diplomats and figures, Patriarch John X Yazigi, Patriarch of Antioch and the whole East, said, "We shouldered the burdens of the homeland and the pain of our people and conveyed them to the representatives of the friendly Russian people." He pointed out that the Russians on all official, parliamentary and religious levels highly appreciate the role of Syria in preserving stability in the region, hailing the deep-rooted relations between the two countries and peoples. For his part, Ambassador Haddad stressed that Syria has always been the homeland of coexistence and tolerance among all religions without discrimination among the components of the Syrian society. Syria today addressed an official memorandum to a number of international organizations and specialized agencies in Geneva, particularly the World Health Organization, the Red Cross International Committee, the International Federation of the Red Crescent and the Red Cross organizations, the UNICEF, the Special Health Rapporteur, and the UN Human Rights Supreme Commission. The memo includes a detailed review of the Syrian government's efforts to render successful the vaccination campaigns against polio in reply to the wave of skepticism upheld by certain sides and news media. The memo addressed by Syria's permanent representative to the UN in Geneva, Mr. Faisal Hamwi, to the aforementioned organizations stressed that the ongoing vaccination campaigns carried out in close cooperation between the Syrian government and the Syrian Arab Red Crescent, as well as concerned international organizations, offices and civil societies in Syria, have succeeded in delivering vaccinations to 2,492,821 children under 5 years old until January the 9th, 2014. The memo praised the turnout at the vaccination centers and the teams and volunteers who have been able to reach hotspots which they failed to reach during the first campaign. The memorandum of the Syrian government drew the attention of those organizations to the obstacles facing the campaign, particularly the deliberate obstruction laid by the armed terrorist groups in the way of the health teams to deny them access to some regions in Syria, including Al Yarmouk camp, Azabadani, Al Raqqa, and some areas in Aleppo and Idlib governorates. Welcome back. Al Yarmouk camp in Damascus today witnessed a new batch of food assistance in implementation of the popular peaceful initiative supported by the Syrian government aimed at alleviating the suffering of the inhabitants who are besieged in the camp that has been under the control of the armed terrorist groups. In Idlib suburbs, the Syrian Arab Army has eliminated terrorists in the villages of Tel Salmo and Majarin in Abu Dhuhur and in Kafarlata and the youth's camp. In Aleppo, the Syrian Arab Army troops have eliminated a number of terrorists in Al-Jazmati, Karm Yassar, Al-Sha'ar, Al-Halaq and Bani Zaid neighborhoods. They killed all the members of a terrorist group near the water station in Sulayman Al-Halabi neighborhood. Syrian troops also destroyed terrorist hideouts in the villages of Ma'aret Al-Artik, Haylan, Haretan, Sheikh Lutfi, the industrial town, Rasm Al-Aboud, Sheikh Najjar, Anadan, Abtin, Haddadin and the surroundings of the central prison. In Homs, Syrian Arab armed forces eliminated the last gatherings of terrorists in Al-Abudiyya Hills and western and eastern Berglan in Al-Qsir. Units of the Syrian Arab army dismantled dozens of explosive devices, killing and wounding dozens of terrorists. In Al-Abudiyya neighborhood in Al-Qsir suburbs, Syrian Arab army units have foiled an infiltration attempt by terrorists from Arsal mountains and Hawara district in Al-Qalamun. The Syrian Arab army has ambushed the armed groups that had been infiltrated from the Lebanese Arsal region into Al-Abudiyya via Al-Nuaymat, Mazra'at Al-Haswani and Al-Abudiyya axis, killing several armed men and destroying their arms-loaded cars. The Syrian Arab Army and the Borders Guard have also foiled an infiltration attempt from Lebanon through Wadi Khalid to Azzara village in Tel Kalakh countryside. The Syrian Arab Army units clashed with the group, eliminating all its members and confiscating a missile launcher that they have been trying to take to terrorists in Azzara village. The Syrian Arab Army has foiled new infiltration attempts by terrorist gangs from Port Said neighborhood in Al-Qadam to secured areas, killing and injuring several armed men. In Daraa, Syrian Arab Army troops have destroyed a 23mm anti-aircraft gun, killing and wounding several terrorists in the area surrounding Al Yarmouk School, the ancient customs building and the shoes factory in downtown Daraa. Finally, in Deir ez-Zor, the Syrian Arab Army has killed and wounded several Jabhat al-Nusra terrorists in Al-Arfi neighborhood, the majority of whom were Saudis and Tunisians. Syrian Arab Army units also eliminated all the members of a terrorist group, including a sniper near Bimo Bank branch in Al-Rushdiya quarter. Syrian Arab Army troops destroyed a 19-meter-long tunnel in Al-Busraya street, killing several armed men. The army, moreover, destroyed a mortar gun and a terrorist's hideout in Al-Amri'iyya village, killing a number of armed men, including Abdel Karim Al-Jasem Al-Nahar. With this to end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.soi. Now to latest business and market news with Karun Kürkcan, but after a short break.
Good afternoon. Prime Minister Dr. Wael al-Halaqi inspected today rehabilitation and repair operations of the damaged infrastructure due to terrorist attacks in Berzeh neighborhood in Damascus countryside. He also pointed out that the workshops are working to complete the maintenance work of electricity, health, communications, water and sewage, in addition to opening new outlets sale for food and oil. The Minister of Housing demanded the concerned parties to facilitate granting the constructing licenses in all Syrian provinces. He also asked all governors to reduce the duration of study of the constructing licenses and encourage the investment works. On the other hand, the ministry develops a plan to overcome the obstacles that face constructing process and provide the citizen with houses in affordable prices. The Director General of the Agricultural Cooperative Bank affirmed that the bank has planned to grant 123 billion Syrian pounds for several agricultural establishments during this year. The director also pointed out that the investment plan includes allocating 100 million Syrian pounds to meet the demand of the investment projects. U.S. crude oil rose, trimming the biggest monthly decline for January since 2010, as demand for fuel countered a second weekly increase in U.S. crude stockpiles. Futures advanced 0.3% after slipping 5 cents yesterday, while Brent for March settlement fell 1 cent. Stocks dropped more than 1% overnight after the Federal Reserve stuck with its plan to scale back stimulus by another $10 billion. European stocks also dropped after the Federal Reserve trimmed bond buying for a second straight meeting, and a Chinese manufacturing report indicated the first contraction in 6 months. Gold held the biggest advance in a week, on concern that a rout in emerging market assets may deepen, fueling demand for a haven as the U.S. Federal Reserve further reduced the pace of asset purchases. The dollar rose against the euro for a fifth day after the Federal Reserve scaled back its stimulus program of bond purchases that tend to weaken the currency, and before data that may underscore the strength of U.S. gold. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we reach the end of our news. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.